Hi, so what I got here is the SEGA Genesis Mini, and this is a replica of the 1980s bigger version. It's the 16-bit. So this came out with game consoles such as TurboGrafx 16, Neo Geo, and Nintendo, and the SEGA Genesis. So this is going to bring you a lot of nostalgia. Now what I find is when I actually plug it in, so this was sort of like an impulse buy for me. I got this for a good $40, which I thought was a very good deal at the time. But the truth is when you plug it in, what ends up happening is everything isn't as nice and good as you remember it to be. So I'll go through each and every game and you know, give you a small little segment of the main games here. So I do have this up on my screen, and what I'm going to show you is you know, scrolling through all of the screens and maybe some of the more popular titles. Now, you know, just to go around the box. So this thing is pretty tiny, and I'll show you all of the games. There's 42 games that are available, including Sonic Hedgehog, Earthworm Jim, and you know, Street Fighter. So this thing is really small, compact. It is 6 inches across and 4.5 inches wide, and everything's run off of USB. The controllers are USB. It does have a volume on off and a reset button, and it runs off of an HDMI cable and also a micro USB power source. So you know, that's really it for this, everything you see here. And the controller, so just to give you a comparison size here, you know, the controller itself is bigger than the console, so just keep that in mind. Now the other thing here is, you know, it does come with 2 controllers, so you could play with you know, your best buddy from your childhood years and have that nostalgic feeling. But I find that, you know, once you start playing with it, you sort of get bored with the games. It isn't as great as you remember it to be, so sometimes it's just better to keep you know, these fond childhood memories just dormant and remember it as it was versus trying to relive it. In any case, let me show you the games themselves. So I'll try to go over these quickly. There is the Alex the Kid in the Enchanted Castle here, Altered Beast. So this is one of the more popular video games back then. Space Harrier 2. There's Ghouls and Ghosts, Golden Axe, Columns, and right here there's Thunder Force 3. So I've never played that before. Castle of Illusion, Strider, Sonic the Hedgehog, and this is one of my favorites, is the Toe Jam and Earl, and this is Wonder Boy. So I've also never played that one. This here is Alicia Dragoon, Kid Chameleon, Super Fantasy Zone, and this is Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Ecco the Dolphin, Road Rash if you're into those racing games, and this is Streets of Rage 2, World of Illusion, Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, Shining Force, Gunstar Heroes, and this is Shinobi 3, The Return of the Ninja Master, Street Fighter 2. So a lot of it does have a couple of Street Fighter and fighting games here. There's the Landstalker here, Spinball, Sonic Spinball, Dr. Robotnik, Eternal Champions, Castlevania, and Contra. So Contra is you know, one of the legacy series that you'll find in a lot of these video games. Now this is one of my favorites, is the Earthworm Jim. So this is one of the more playable games on this, whereas a lot of the other ones are like sort of the scrolly type games where the screens are scrolling and you're just moving about, you know, up and down, left to right. Whereas Earthworm Jim sort of actually has a lot of depth to it with the video game. I mean, it's still a scrolly type game, but at the same time it has a better graphics than some of the earlier games here. So this is Dynamite Headdy, this is Mega Man, Phantasy Star 4, Beyond Oasis, and keep in mind, a lot of these games were like 40 to 60, 70, 80 bucks, you know, back when you were a kid, you know, trying to play these. So you can actually buy all of them, or, you know, sometimes you'll buy them used, sometimes you'll trade them, you know, from Electronic Boutique, That was back then when there was no GameStop. So this is, you know, Light Crusader. This is a Comix Zone, Vector Man. So this is Street Virtual Fighter 2, Monster World 4, Darius, and Tetris. So those are the 42 games. So let me just go over some of the screens on some of the you know, title screens that you often see and remember. So I'm gonna go to Altered Beast here. And you know, give you a look-see on the fond memories. So you see how lame this becomes when you're you know, playing this. You can't actually play this. You sort of get bored now playing these you know, hours on end. You know, it just goes to show that when you're a kid, you know, how much time you wasted playing these you know, what you would probably consider very lame games these days. So you know, let me just go back to the title screen here. So it does allow you to save and load games in particular states. So you could save, you know, basically where you are in each game. You know, here's Golden Axe, and maybe that brings back, you know, some memories. So this looks kind of cool at first, but once again, it ends up being fairly boring when you start playing it. But look how cool it is, right? When you're actually, you know, going back in time. And of course, some of these, you know, has the storyline to it, but even then. And lots of times you realize how much you suck from it, and all you're really doing is like repetitively pushing buttons. You know, so it's not as fun as you sort of remember it to be. And so, you know, this is Golden Axe. Let me go ahead and go back and, you know, show you some of the other games. And once again, you could save and load 4 different states for each game. And I'm just going to go back to the main menu and, you know, show you Castle of Illusion. So these things, as I mentioned before, gets boring pretty quickly. But nevertheless, you know, maybe for 40 bucks, you know, sometimes you get a used one for 35 bucks, 30 bucks. But for the most part, it's a little bit, yeah, you know, it gets a little bit boring. And I'm just going to start here. And you can see Castle of Illusion. There's a story here. And of course, most of these games are the scrolly games, as I mentioned, left to right, up and down. And the gameplay is a lot slower than you remember it to be. So this is the pace and speed that you're going, so it does get somewhat boring for that reason. Alright, so much for Mickey Mouse and the Castle of Illusion. Go back and give you a look at, you know, Sonic the Hedgehog. So look how many years ago this was. This was release date of 1999. See how badly I suck in this, you know, compared to when you were a kid. And you're trying to do the same tricks that you did when you were a kid. And maybe some of you guys have better, you know, muscle memory than I do with this particular game. But once again, so this particular game has one of the faster scrolling, you know, features. So it's a little bit more speedy and not as slow. You know, so. But once again, let me go back to the main menu. What I find is when I'm playing this, is that my thumbs hurt a little bit quicker than they used to. So, you know, all of that scar tissue that you've built up on your thumb no longer exists. And I'm gonna skip that a little bit. You know, go to the Shinobi. So the Shinobi is one of those that, you know, definitely was one of the bigger titles back then. And even for Shinobi, it's just not what you remember it to be. So here you go. Here's the splash screen for the, you know, particular storyline that it has. And you really just want to get the game started. So. You know, once again, you know, back then these graphics, these grainy graphics had really cool stories, but not so much these days. Mainly because it's just a little bit, the gameplay is so similar among all of these games that you really, you know, it doesn't, our attention span is not what it, you know, for these type of games, you just don't have patience for it anymore because they are so repetitive. Even for the ones where you get down to the boss, you know, for each stage. So, alright, so much for Shinobi. And let me go ahead and go back up to the main menu. And scroll down a little bit, you know, maybe some of the, you know, Street Fighter games here. So let me go to the Street Fighter 2 Championship Series. And this was in 1993. And the famous company Capcom here. Yeah, that was cool back in the day. So I'm just gonna, you know, do a game start, and you know, the Ryu, you know, Honda, Blanca, Guile, Vega, Ken, Chun-Li, Zangief, the Indian guy, Dalsum, Sagat, and Bison. So you know, just giving you a feel for what it used to be. You know, so a lot of these controls are just, oh man, I'm so close. Yep. Totally, definitely not what you remember it to be. So let me just go back to the main menu once again. And, you know, see if there's any other interesting, you know, blockbuster games here from back then. You know, there is the Castlevania Earthworm Jim. Yeah, that's one that's worth showing. So this is one of the cooler, funner games. This was in 1994. This is one of the funnier, you know, more comedic games out there back then. but the graphics were a little bit better than a lot of the other ones also. So this game had a little bit more depth to it, but also, you know, sort of just remember, you know, the character itself. I believe there was even a cartoon. You know, that there was even a cartoon. Sort of remember that scene with the with the what do you call it, refrigerator there. So yeah, so again, this gets a little bit boring. I won't bore you with this. Let me go back to the main menu here. So maybe this is worth $40, maybe it isn't, but I do find it to be a little bit more of an impulse buy. After a while, it does get boring. So, you know, Tetris is Tetris. But there you go. That's really what I want to show. I hope this helps and, you know, brings back fond memories. And please subscribe, and thank you for watching.